Hey guys, welcome back to another Naruto CCG Deck Profile. Today I'll be profiling an Uchiha Sharingan Kunai deck. It's actually a pretty standard strategy from back in the day, but I've got my own little twists and additions in this version. How you can change it to conform to each list. And also, as always, you can find the full deck list down in the description below, and you can upload it to Untap if you wish to see the cards in detail, add anything else you might want, or just to have the list for yourself. So without further ado, let us get into it. Starting off with clients, I run two Teyaki Uchiha. It is a turn 1 client, fire and earth element. And its effect is when you put in play a ninja, if that ninja has Uchiha in its name, you draw one card. As always, card advantage is one of the most important parts of any card game, so drawing is going to be equally as important. And as it's an Uchiha deck, you're going to be deploying an Uchiha pretty much every turn of the game. So hopefully you'll get upwards of 5 to even 7, 9 draws from this one card alone. I run 2 of them because you do want to see this as early as possible in the game, but if you see more than one, it gets pretty clunky and it's not worth drawing into after that. For turn 0 ninjas, I run 3 Kisuke Maboroshi. It is a fire and lightning element turn 0 with 3 combat and 0 when it's injured. And its effect is when this ninja is discarded due to the showdown, if it does not have a ghost coin on it, move this ninja card to your village with a ghost coin on it. Ghost coins inherently don't do anything. They are just a rider for the second effect of this card. When this ninja would be discarded due to the showdown, if it has a ghost coin on it, remove it from the game instead. So essentially, this is one of the best stall cards in the entire game. Once it's killed by the showdown, so not by a jutsu specifically, it does come back onto your field for another turn, and they'll have to kill it all over again, with the trade-off being that once it's killed the second time, theoretically, it will be removed from the game entirely. It will not go to your discard, so you won't be able to get it back from there. It won't be able to go to chakra to be used in any other way if you can send it back there or something. So I run 3 of these just because you want to stall kind of early on. Uchiha doesn't really turn on until a little bit later in the game, and this is just one of the better ways to do that on the early turn 0s. Next, I run 3 Hotaru. It is a water wind turn 0 ninja, also with 3-0 and 0-0 when it's injured, just like Kisuke. And its effect is when this ninja is put in play, flip a coin. If heads, draw 1 card. If tails, place a growth coin on this ninja. So this is one of the best turn 0 water ninjas in the game, and earth wind ninjas in the game as well. No matter what she does with the coin flip, she does gain a benefit. Like I said, drawing is going to be one of the more important effects that you can have in the game, so drawing a card on turn 0 is going to be very important. But having a growth coin to make this a combat 4 ninja on turn 0 is equally powerful. So there really is no downside to the coin flip. Once more, she also has growth. So if you end up getting a draw with the first flip, you can growth over that to put a growth coin on this and get a second flip, which then could give you a second growth coin to make her a 5-0 turn 0 ninja on the next turn, turn 1 probably. Or you could get 2 draws and then, get the growth coin on the second time just from the growth and have a 4-0 with 2 draws. So this is just an extremely important turn 0 ninja. And just like with Kisuke, it does synergize with another turn 0 that I have a little bit later. I run 2 Kakashi Hatake, Childhood. It is a turn 0, and like the other 2, it has a 3 combat, 0 support, and 0 combat when it's injured. Its effect is when this ninja becomes the user of a jutsu card with requirements Kakashi Hatake, you must pay 1 additional chakra of any symbol. So I do run 2 of these because 1, I have squads that can benefit from having a Kakashi in the deck. And 2, this is a Sharingan Eye turn 0 ninja, of which there are few outside of select Sasuke's, which I don't want to run a lot of. So unfortunately, its effect is intended to be bad, and there are other turn 0 Kakashis, such as a Boyhood version, that do not have this negative effect, that can still use Kakashi Jutsus without penalty. But that Boyhood Kakashi does not have Sharingan Eye, which is extremely important for this deck. So I do just run 2 of these because I don't exactly want to see it all the time, but I do need it to be in here semi-reliably for the squads. And it can occasionally provide a good turn 0 for the aim of the deck with Jutsus. I run 2 Naruto Uzumaki turn 0s. It is a 0-0 and 3-0 when injured. Lightning Ninja, so it's not on element for pretty much any of the costs in this deck. But just like the Kakashi, I do have squads that are going to be using a Naruto in the deck, and I don't really have the space to fit a better turn 3 or something to actually function as like a member on the board. So this Naruto, with the effect of when this ninja is put in play, you draw 1 card, is really just to provide more hand advantage. Drawing a card guaranteed is just going to be incredibly useful. Its second effect is that every Akatsuki ninja in your opponent's hand gets -1 entrance cost. Unfortunately, that is supposed to be a detriment to you, but Akatsuki ninjas aren't super prevalent. Yes, they are around, but giving them -1 entrance cost for hopefully just a few turns while this is just a chump blocker is absolutely not a big deal. It doesn't have clone status, and I don't run any Rasengan Jutsu anyway, but even if I did, it couldn't use them. So mostly this is just to get the card advantage and to squad out into later, probably deploying this late game if there's nothing else available. I run 1 Sasuke Uchiha Ocular Abilities. It is another turn 0 with 3 and no support and no combat when injured, just like most of the turn 0s here. It does have Sharingan Eye, which is one of the reasons why I run this one specifically. And because it is Uchiha, he does get to get the draw off of Teyaki, our client, so that's very helpful. It does have growth in the off chance that you really need to growth over one of our late game Sasukes. It's just in case. But its ability is what makes it shine and why I run it at turn 0 at all. When this ninja is put in play, you can remove any coin on an in-play card from the game. In that case, you draw 1 card. So this can turn Hotaru into a draw no matter what, even if you've gotten the growth coin setup. And if there is a negative coin in play, such as a poison coin or something, you can remove that to get another draw, which is incredibly good. The main benefit of this, however, is with Kisuke, as if Kisuke has been killed and is brought back with a ghost coin, once it's killed again, it will be removed from the game. But if Sasuke is put into play while it has that ghost coin, you can remove that ghost coin, draw a card, and now Kisuke is not removed from the game when he's killed again. So you can essentially make Kisuke last for another 2 lives, or 2 lives basically, to do another chump block, which is kind of ridiculous in terms of stall. So it's not going to be gotten off very often, but this is kind of a really fun gimmick on the early game, and providing more advantage in cards is always very nice. And lastly, I run 1 Hina. I tend to run 11 turn 0s, but I don't use Hina as a body on the board. So even though it is a turn 0, I still am running 11 turn 0s just in case. This is basically in here as a turn 0 only for kind of a last option. Because its effect is during your mission phase, that's the attacker mission phase, you are the attacker, discard this card from your hand. Discard a mission or client. So this is one of the best ways to remove negative missions from the game. I've talked about it before, but there are missions that can negate your ninja effects, such as comparative strength, one of the best missions in the game. It basically turns off your ninja. So if you can have this Hina in your hand, if they, comparative strengths or dehydration your ninja and turn off its effect, this can essentially reverse that and make it so that your effect is going to work again immediately on your turn. There are other cards that can remove missions from the game, but a lot of them are counter missions if they are missions themselves, or they're going to be on your opponent's turn, which is a turn too late if they're going to be using counter missions against you. Or they take a deploy away from you, such as Shima. So this is one of the best ways possible to protect your ninjas if you really have effects that you need to stay on the board. And this deck is almost entirely based on effects of ninjas. So I do run one of these because I have one other way to remove missions from my ninjas, but I still do need this one just in case. Moving on to turn ones, I run 2 Karin. This deck is kind of half fire, half water, so having her in here is pretty beneficial as she has ambush, so she can be a hand cost for the very few water hand costs we need. But her effect is you can pay 1 chakra during the EOJ or during the mission phase, and move 1 card in your opponent's discard pile to their chakra area, heal one of your other ninjas. So one of the best healing ninjas in the game because there's essentially no cost. I mean, you give them back 1 chakra, but in the long term, they're probably going to be dealing with their own chakra supply anyway. So to heal one of your ninjas, especially in this deck that has almost no valid effects, is very paramount. So it has also 2 support and 1 support when it's injured, so it's very good as a back ninja, again, in a deck that doesn't have a lot of support, as fire kind of runs heavy on the front end combat side. Another interesting thing about this effect specifically is that if your opponent has effects that require targeting in the discard, such as if your opponent is running a pain deck and they're using a chibi animal path and trying to target a animal in their discard pile specifically, you can chain this effect to their effect to move that card from the discard pile to the chakra, and the target is no longer valid as it's no longer in the correct spot. There are other examples of this. Can't think of any off the top of my head. Like a reanimation deck, for example, would be bad facing this, because anytime they try to reanimate, whether with a jutsu or with like a kabuto effect or something, you can chain this, move the card out of the discard pile, and it can no longer be reanimated. Same with like Ghost Panic or something. So that's pretty helpful. You could also target, let's say, Messenger Ninja, if they're playing Messenger Ninjas and they only have 1 Messenger Ninja in the discard pile. So there are a lot of kind of disruptive ways that you can use Karin's absorption ability, not even just to heal. So that's kind of neat, but she is mainly in here because you need the unvalid effects to be kept in play. And she can be used as a water chakra if push comes to shove. Next, I run 2 Obito Uchiha, still turn 1s. He has 2 combat and 4 when injured, 0 support either way. So he's a lot like Naruto, where when he's injured, he does get stronger. And his effect is valid. While this ninja is injured, fire jutsu cards used by this ninja cost 1 colorless chakra less to play. Unfortunately, the 1 colorless chakra is a requirement. If there's like a jutsu that costs 3 fire chakra, this does not reduce it by any amount because they do need to be colorless chakra. So that is unfortunate, but the key jutsus in this deck do have colorless chakra on it, so that's fine. It also has growth, just in case you have one that's got a negative effect on it. Of course, that negative effect would move onto the growth ninja. But if you need to, let's say, remove a different version and put this one into play, that's possible. You can also put this one into play on top of the other one if you've drawn both, just to give it a little buff. It can be a 5-0 combat when it's injured with a growth coin. So that's pretty helpful. Obviously, it is an Uchiha, so it gets to draw with Teyaki, and it has Sharingan Eye, so it's going to be useful for the jutsus later down the line. On to turn 2s, I run 1 Shino Aburame Calculated Decision. This is a Revitalize card, and so if you don't know, Revitalize is a sort of later effect where if this card is put into the discard pile whatsoever, it is instead moved to the bottom of the deck. So essentially, this card can never be in the discard pile at all. It has a mental power of 2, which is nice, and it is a 3/2/02 when injured ninja. And its main effect is when this ninja is put in play, you can look at a player's hand, either player. In that case, you can choose a card from that player's hand and move it to the bottom of their deck and have that player draw 1 card. Very useful for filtering your own hand if you have a very late game ninja early in the game and you don't want it to clog up your hand. Also very useful for disrupting your opponent. If you put this into play, you can look at their hand, move a jutsu to the bottom of their deck, move a mission that they want to play to the bottom of their deck, helpful ninja, whatever. It's very similar to like Wind Scythe Tamari, just kind of disrupting their hand and forcing them to kind of reevaluate is very strong. The main reason I run one of these in this deck is because the main focus of the deck is going to be milling yourself. So not that it happens very often, but it is possible that you'll get to a state in the game where you can no longer afford to mill yourself because you are going to run out of cards and you will lose if you have no cards in your deck at the end of the turn. So this allows you to keep milling yourself. It'll keep putting itself on the bottom of your deck, which could be the only card in your deck at that point, and hopefully keep you in the game for 1 or 2 more turns to keep you alive. I've debated running 2 on the off chance that you need 2 so that you can filter 1 into the discard, bottom of your deck, while you have 1 in your hand, draw the next one, put 1 of them in your chakra, use it to get in the discard again. But it didn't feel super necessary. You never really get to that portion of the game, in that game state. If you're that far into the game, things are probably pretty dire, and I don't think having 1 card unmillable is going to really save you very much. But I still do want to run 1 just in case, and this is one of the best revitalized cards in the game. Still on turn 2, I run 2 Inabi Uchiha. It is one of the many Leaf Police Force Uchiha cards. And obviously it has a Sharingan Eye characteristic, so it can use the jutsus that we're going to be using later. And it is an Uchiha, so it gets the draw off of our client. Its effect is, while you have the symbol of the Proud Clan mission card in play, your opponent cannot search for any cards in their deck. Searching is very powerful. Most missions outside of draw missions are going to be to search. A lot of ninja card effects are going to be to search. Searching is what allows players to get the pieces that they need specifically at the time they need. So searching is incredibly powerful. And if you can turn that off, this is going to be one of the most beneficial cards in the deck. It does require that mission, like it says, so it's not a single piece effect that you can use, such as a Shino that has an effect that you just can't search at all. But it is still very beneficial if you can have that mission. It's a 3/2/02, so it has pretty decent stats for a turn 2, but its main draw is that effect. Unfortunately, the Leaf Police Force Uchiha do not have Genjutsu as their combat attribute. They all have Ninjutsu, which is probably for the best, because if they were all Genjutsu, it would just be broken. You would just run Uchiha in every Genjutsu-based deck of all time. So that is an unfortunate truth, but they're still decent, and I run 2 of them just so you can see them more often. Now to turn 3s, I run 2 Tekka Uchiha, same deal. It has Sharingan Eye and Uchiha in its name. And like the last, it is a Leaf Police Force ninja that has an effect while you have the symbol of the Proud Clan mission card in play. Your opponent cannot put in play any ninja cards except by deploying them. Another disruptor card, put in play effects are incredibly good for rush. And that's the main way that you cheese a lot of games, getting cards out in earlier game state than they can normally come out, like if they have a large entrance cost. Put in play effects are not beholden to the entrance cost, typically. So if you can prevent put in play effects, you can prevent a lot of cheese. You can kind of keep yourself from being overrun And that's pretty beneficial. It has a 4-2 and a 1-1 as its combat stats. And again, like I said, it does have ninjutsu, unfortunately. So another card that does rely on a secondary mission, which is unfortunate. But being Uchiha, being Sharingan Eye, it's not totally reliant on its effect, which is nice. Next, I run 2 Yashiro Uchiha, another Leaf Police Force with Sharingan Eye and Uchiha in its name. Its effect is, while you have the symbol of the Proud Clan mission card in play, your opponent cannot draw any cards by their effects. I always talk about how drawing is one of the most powerful things you can do in any card game, and turning it off is one of the most powerful anti-meta things that you can do in any card game. So once again, it is reliant on a mission, but that's fine because it does have the Sharingan Eye and Uchiha, so it's not totally dead in the water. And its stats are fine. 4-0 and 4-0 on a turn 3 it's passable. It's fine. And once again, it has ninjutsu just like the rest. And lastly, for turn 3, I run a third Obito Uchiha. It is a hidden strength effect. And turn 3, like I said, has Sharingan Eye, has Uchiha, and it does have growth like the others. So if you have the first one down and you no longer need its effect, you can growth over it with this one to have the much better effect. Its effect is valid. During the exchange of jutsu, you can discard 1 card from your hand. In that case, negate 1 jutsu card being used by a ninja with an entrance cost of 3 or less. Its second effect is your Kakashi Hatake and or Rin get +1/+1. The second effect can be kind of helpful with the turn 0 Kakashi childhoods that I run. Just kind of makes it a better beat stick, and it can boost the effect of the squads that I run with Kakashi. And that's pretty helpful. There's another, I guess I'll just get into that when I get into reinforcements. But the +1/+1 is fine. Its main effect is the negation of jutsu, which is very powerful. A lot of jutsus, surprisingly, are cast by entrance cost of 3 or less. It's pretty much every Rasengan deck that you're going to see. A lot of the sort of minor jutsus, like in the early game to try to gain an advantage, are going to be through entrance cost of 3 or less, because this is going to come out on turn 3, hopefully. So that's going to be pretty much every ninja on the field. And it kind of makes it so that if there are, rider effects with your jutsus that your opponent is expecting, like say an effect that says you change the effect of a jutsu to give 1 damage to the user, they're going to want to cast that with one of their chump blockers, and that means they're going to be casting it with probably a lower entrance cost ninja. They're not going to use a jutsu that doesn't have requirements on a higher cost ninja, just on the off chance that it's turned against them, basically. So in those situations, this card is very good because it can negate those outright. Like a lot of things, having the mental element is kind of a big deal. Your opponent knowing that you can negate one of their jutsus per turn might mean that they simply don't use their jutsus per turn and kind of save them, which in effect is a negation if they wanted to use it on that turn in the first place. So this is a very, very strong card, and I recommend running more than 1, but I didn't have the space because I did prioritize the very early turn 1 Obito instead, simply because I needed another Sharingan Eye and Uchiha that early. So any other time I would run 2 of these, but unfortunately I did just have room for the 1. Moving on to turn 4s, I run 2 Fugaku Uchiha. He is kind of an older ninja, but his effect is still incredibly good. He has Sharingan Eye and Uchiha, just like most of the rest, and he does have a flame combat attribute because he was pretty early, so they didn't really know anything about this guy. But his effect is valid. All of your in-play ninjas with Uchiha in their name get +2/+0, except this ninja. So that's really good because it turns pretty much all of the other Uchiha that you have earlier on into a overwhelming victory or battle reward if they are unblocked. And that kind of turns each team into a much, much bigger threat. Because like I was saying, I don't have much in the way of support, and Fire doesn't in general. So if you can just buff your numbers passively and kind of let each individual single ninja be a threat against a whole team, that's going to be incredibly valuable. He does have Jonin, which doesn't come into play, and he does have no hand cost, which is very good. So I do run 2 of these because you want to see it pretty much on turn 4. It kind of runs amok with the other turn 4, the most important card of the deck. So it might be kind of clunky getting it out there, but when it does land, it makes all of your teams incredibly hard to block. And onto the most important card of the deck for ninjas. This is Sasuke Uchiha Exhausted. It also has one of the newer effects, Inherit, which is specifically worded as, when this ninja would be discarded, remove it from the game instead. In that case, target ninja you control gets this ninja card's effect text, except Inherit, as long as it remains in play. So it is valid, which is very important because you can be discarded after being injured. And it does specify that when this ninja would be discarded, not this ninja card. When a ninja card is on the field, it is called a ninja. When it's anywhere else, it's called a ninja card. So you know this effect only works while it's on the field. If you discarded this from your hand, it doesn't activate. If you mill it from your own deck, that does not activate. So that's very important. And its main effect is jutsu cards used by this ninja may have their costs paid by discarding cards from the top of your deck instead, and any specific symbols count as 1 for this effect. This effect is incredible and the entire crux of this deck and strategy. So first of all, it is a May effect. In Naruto, can effect, so if this had said jutsu cards used by this ninja can have their cost paid, it means that it's only usable once per turn. But because it says May, it's usable as many times as you want per turn without restriction, which is very important. Secondly, any specific symbols count as 1 for this effect is insane. It has to be this way because there's no way you could regulate your deck to have specific symbols unless you have a completely monochrome deck. So it's kind of required, but this does allow you to kind of pull off some shenanigans. And for example, if you were playing a jutsu that had a requirement of or a cost of 2 fire, and you used his effect to discard 2 cards from the top of your deck instead, if those cards were earth cards, it would still count as fire and you'd be able to use that jutsu. So that's essentially how it works, and it is insane with a combo that I will get into once we're at the jutsu section. So I'm going to put this off to the side and explain it more once I get there. The last turn 4 I run is 1 Hidan. This is the Immortal Soul Hidan and probably the best Hidan available in any main deck. Its effect is valid. When this ninja would be removed from the game, move it to your discard pile instead. So no matter what, it can't be removed from the game, period. And, well, I guess if its effect was negated. But if it was negated and then it was attempted to be removed from play, it might not be a ninja. It might be a ninja card while it's nebulously being removed. I'm not sure. Negating it might allow it to be removed from play, but that doesn't matter. Its second effect is attacker mission, so your mission phase. You can give your opponent 1 battle reward, and if your turn marker is equal to or greater than this ninja card's entrance cost, put this ninja card in play from your discard pile. And this can only be activated from the discard pile. So essentially, if you mill this card into your own discard pile, you have a free put in play effect every turn, so long as you have the battle rewards. It does not count as a deploy, which is very powerful, which means essentially you can get a free body every turn as long as you have the resources. And as long as you can get this out onto play, you always have the potential of going into the curse mode Hidan from your reinforcement deck. So that's why most people run this Hidan specifically. I have it in this deck because a lot of this deck is self-mill, so this is going to be going into your discard pile a lot of the time. And having effects that are activatable from the discard so that you're not essentially wasting your deck by sending it there is very important. Unfortunately, it doesn't have ambush, which is fine, but I wish it did because a lot of rogue ninjas do. But it does have 5-0-5-0 for stats, so even if it's injured, it is fine. But yeah, it's mostly just there for the discard potential. And lastly, a sort of similar turn 6 ninja is Hanzo the Salamander. It is fire and water, turn 6 with a 1 hand cost. So this can be used like Karin as a hand cost or any other waters that we have. Its effect is, during your mission phase, you can remove 7 cards in your discard pile from the game, and in that case, you win 1 battle reward. This is just a late game effect. Because you're self-milling a lot, you should have 7 cards in your discard pile a lot of the time. So combining this with the Hidan curse mode in your discard in your reinforcement deck is going to give you a lot of extra killing power in the very end. It's a lot like well, I'm gonna embarrass myself here. There's a card in Yu-Gi-Oh that you can just pay and then do damage straight up, and it's kind of an end of the game kill your opponent option. This is in the same realm. Where you Gaga Cowboy, is that it? I don't know. Where if they have 8 or 9 battle rewards, or you have 8 or 9 battle rewards already, you can pay this, get another one, and all of a sudden now your opponent is screwed. They have no way to kind of stop this, and it can be used to even win the game. Its second effect is this ninja card can be deployed from your discard pile. So a lot like Hidan, if it's in the discard pile, it is still usable. And also like Hidan, when it is brought out onto the field, having the cards milled is going to be very beneficial for you. So I'm kind of just maximizing any way that my discard pile can be used, and this is one of the better ways. Also has Ambush, which is helpful because it can be used for hand costs. But having Chakra isn't the biggest deal in this deck, so it's not like it pushes it over the edge. On to jutsus. The first jutsu I run is one Sharingan Eye. It is a fire jutsu with a cost of 1 fire and 1 colorless, so it can be reduced down to 1 singular fire if turn 1 Obito is injured, which is very helpful. It has a requirement of Sharingan Eye, which is 90% of the deck, which is very neat, and the target is 1 jutsu. Effect is negate and remove the target from the game. If you paid the cost of this jutsu with a water chakra, so the 1 colorless, you can discard 2 of your opponent's chakra. I actually didn't think about it until just now, but actually if you used Hanzo as the 1 fire chakra, I believe that would count as paying 1 water chakra as well. I know there was some debate about that, but I believe reading it, that's how it would work. It's possible that that is not the ruling for that, but in any case. There are enough water chakras in this deck that effect can come into play, which is going to be handy because you do cast a lot of jutsus in this deck, and preventing your opponent from reacting to them is going to be very helpful. So this plus the other Obito means that there are multiple ways to negate in this deck, and hopefully you won't be needing to, because the next jutsu is the main crux of the deck. That jutsu is Sharingan Kunai, one of the most insane jutsus they've ever created, and you wouldn't even know it unless you really understood how insane this effect is. So it is a fire jutsu with 1 fire and 2 colorless requirements. Again, Obito, when injured, can make that 1 fire, 1 colorless. Its effect is, its target is 1 ninja battling against the user, so any ninja in the opposing team, which is just the team that the ninja using this is being blocked by. The effect is, give 1 damage to the target. Additionally, if the user has Sharingan Eye, give 1 additional damage to the target and move this jutsu card to your hand. So this jutsu is a kill jutsu for 3 chakra, which is pretty good, but if it resolves, it goes straight back to your hand and you can use it again. It's basically a free mastery, which is already very strong, except mastery is only once per turn. Also, because it's only if a Sharingan user has used it, it gets to your hand pretty much every single user in this entire deck. There's like 4 ninjas that can't use this card and get it back. Even if they did use this card, they still deal 1 damage to the opponent, which is very good. But the main combo is that when this Sasuke is using Sharingan Kunai, you are paying the cost from the top of your deck instead. So you can pay 3 chakra even if you have 0, as long as you're discarding them from the top of your deck. Assuming that it goes off properly, you'll kill a ninja, it'll go back to your hand, and Sasuke, not being restricted to once per turn, can use this jutsu again to kill another ninja for 3 more chakra off the top of your deck. It resolves again, it kills a second ninja, it goes back to your hand. This Sasuke can use it a 3rd time to kill a 3rd ninja opposing him, even if he's by himself, for 9 chakra off the top of your deck. You don't have to have any chakra in your chakra area. So the mental struggle of facing this is incredibly strong as well. Knowing that this Sasuke can and will kill any ninja that comes into play against him with this jutsu is incredibly mind-boggling. The only way to really deal with this is to either, 1, negate Sharingan Kunai, or to use a jutsu after it, so that it is used beforehand in the chain, to either kill Sasuke, remove him from the battlefield, or somehow prevent Sharingan Kunai from resolving. Even if that happens, I run 3 of them, and it is usable for any other Sharingan Eye user. It's not like it just has to be Sasuke, so long as you have the chakra. But the fun part is, even if Sasuke is killed, his inherit effect can go on to any other ninja that you have, which can be another Sharingan Eye user. So it just makes any other Uchiha almost as good as him at doing exactly what he's doing. So this one jutsu and this one ninja turn this deck into basically a win on turn 3 or 4, depending on how early you can get it off. Obviously, it's not infallible. They can still get around it, but the potential of knowing that you can kill an entire team essentially for free and without telegraphing it with any chakra is incredibly potent. I also run 1 Fear by Genjutsu. It is a 3 colorless chakra jutsu. It's always very hard to see these because I buy the black and gold ones. It's also a fire jutsu, so once again that Obito can use this for 2 colorless chakra if he's injured. Its target is every ninja battling against the user, and its effect is the target becomes a standby ninja, which means any jutsus they're using are going to fizzle, and if you're attacking directly, you'll win battle rewards. Additionally, if the user has a Genjutsu combat attribute, give 1 damage to the target. Sasuke does have a Genjutsu combat attribute, so he can use this and get its full effect with the damage. Both Obitos have Genjutsu as well, and all the squads that I run with Sasuke and Kakashi have Genjutsu. I believe Kakashi Childhood also has Genjutsu. Yes, Kakashi Childhood also has Genjutsu. Unfortunately, Sasuke turn 0 does not. He has the flame. But there are multiple targets for the Genjutsu sort of expert effect. But that's not super necessary. Fear by Genjutsu is just one of the best negates, pseudo-negates in the game, and disruptors for allowing you to win battle rewards. And lastly, jutsu-wise, I run 2 Five-Pronged Seals, one of the earliest jutsus in the game. Its target is one of your opponent's ninjas, and the effect is return the target and all cards in your opponent's hand to their original owner's deck and shuffle. The target has actually been errated to be one of your opponent's ninjas, opposing ninjas, so it has to be in a team against the user. It can't snipe as it's written currently, which is good because that is stupid broken, especially with this Sasuke, because as I mentioned earlier, any specific symbols count as 1 for this effect. So Sasuke can use this jutsu that requires 1 lightning, 1 fire, 1 water, 1 wind, and 1 earth for simply 5 colorless chakra from the top of your deck. So it's essentially Senjutsu that he has. So he can use this jutsu for, free from the top of the deck, just like any other jutsu he can use. So if you can get this off on turn 4, this is basically a game ender. Your opponent losing a ninja, probably losing battle rewards, and having no hand at the end of the exchange of jutsu, there's not much you can do to come back from that. So I do run 2 of them because it's incredibly, incredibly strong to get off. But because it has been errata to be one opposing ninja, if you're doing like a best of 3 or your opponent just knows the potential, they can just simply let Sasuke or whatever ninja has inherited his effect to swing through and win battle rewards to try to stall out until they can counter this. And obviously 5 chakra for a jutsu to be like negated or fizzled is kind of a lot. That's going to be more than a fifth of your deck, even on turn 0. So yeah, getting this off is incredibly strong. Having it negated is incredibly bad. So yeah, I do run 2. 3 felt too clunky, and 1 is just not enough for the crazy potential it has. On to missions, I run 2 just like Drifting Clouds. It is a turn 1 mission with 1 hand cost, and it is a fire mission. Pretty old, but it is a permanent 2 mission, so it lasts for 2 of your turns, and the coin is removed at the start of your turn. Its effect is, during your mission phase, you can exchange all the cards in your hand with the same amount of cards from the top of your deck. In that case, shuffle your deck and draw 1 card. So the shuffle is already very good. You can swap out your hand and see up to, 6 new cards probably. But getting a draw every time is also very good. That essentially makes this card a turn 2 loss, basically, with the ability to reshuffle your hand, which in terms of card advantage and variety is one of the best in the entire game. I do only run 2 because it does feel really bad to have a good card in your hand and have this available. You don't want to lose that card just to kind of see the potential of the rest of your hand. Like if you had Sasuke in your hand and you're probably going to run into a Sharingan Kunai soon, you might not want to shuffle that Sasuke back into your deck. You only have 2 of them, and the odds of finding the other one or the same one again are kind of slim. But when you need this card, you really need this card. Shuffling your hand and then the extra draw on top of that is insane and can easily get you into a good game state off of any sort of bad game state. So that's why I run 2 of those. I understand running 3, but I just personally don't want to in this deck. Next, I run 2 Brotherhood. It is a turn 1 mission with 1 hand cost, and it is a fire mission. Its effect is, search your deck for 1 ninja card with Uchiha in its name, reveal it and move it to your hand, then shuffle your deck. In an Uchiha deck, this is obviously one of the best tutors you could possibly run. It allows you to search for pretty much any card in your deck for ninjas. And it's incredibly good if you need one specific Uchiha. Let's say you haven't seen your Sasuke and it's coming up on when it can be played. That's very good. If you need a negate, you can search for the Obito. If you need to prevent them from either drawing, searching, or putting in play, you can search for the Uchiha that stops that. If you need to buff all your ninjas because they are just overrunning your teams, you can search for Fugaku and buff all of your guys by +2. So this is just a very powerful search tutor because it allows you to search for pretty much any ninja that you can possibly think of in your deck. I run 1 Friendship from Sorrow. It's a turn 2, 1 hand cost water mission, the only sole water mission I run. I feel like I do run enough water chakra that I am able to use this effectively. And this is the reason I only run the 1 Hina. Because its effect is, look at the top 3 cards of your deck, move 1 to your hand, 1 to your chakra area, and 1 to your discard pile. So that's already pretty good. The draw is good. And a lot of your deck is going to be in the discard pile anyway. If you somehow happen to draw into like Hanzo or Hidan, you can put one of them into your discard without losing really any potential. You can put like a Karin into your chakra for the ambush effect, or you can just filter out cards that you don't really need. But its second effect is, during your mission phase, if this card is in your chakra area, you can remove this card and another card in your chakra area from the game, and in that case, discard 1 in-play non-ninja card. So this is the reason I run the 1 Hina instead of 2 Hina like I normally would, because this is one of the other only ways to counter a counter mission on your mission phase. So long as this is in the chakra, your opponent basically knows they can't play a counter mission against you, or they can't play a regular mission that you're just choosing to get rid of. It also is just a non-ninja card, so you can remove clients from the game. You can remove like tokens from the game, probably. Haven't really thought about that very much. But if you're going to be comp strengthed, this being in your chakra essentially prevents that. And for a deck that relies incredibly hard on an effect, you want as much counter mission removal as possible. I run 1 turn 3 Cursed Eyes. Oh, sorry, it's turn 2 Cursed Eyes with 1 hand cost. Is a fire and water mission, so you can use the Karin again for hand cost if you choose. Its effect is permanent, and it is during the exchange of jutsu. You can remove 2 ninja cards with Sharingan Eye in your discard pile and or chakra area from game. In that case, search for 1 jutsu card in your deck, show it to your opponent, and place it in your hand, and then shuffle your deck. So putting this on the chain while you have no jutsus is essentially going to allow you to search for a jutsu, because hopefully you've milled yourself to having at least a couple Sharingan Eye in your discard or chakra. It's also beneficial because if you're removing the chakra from the game, you're not really losing out on that jutsu potential, because hopefully you are using the Sasuke to pay from the top of your deck instead. Whereas normally if you were getting rid of Uchiha from your chakra area, you would be milling yourself out of the use of that chakra for a jutsu anyway. This is also just very good for solidifying your lead. If you have 1 Sharingan Eye in your or Sharingan Kunai in your hand, and you know they can probably stop that one, if you just pick up another one, then you'll be able to use that one to protect the first. This also is just going to put it onto the chain, so it can get into some weird mind games there, because it'll resolve in reverse order, and then you can pick which jutsu you're bringing in the reverse order, if that makes sense. So, for example, if you're playing like Sharingan Kunai, and then they play a jutsu, and then you chain this on, and then you play a jutsu or something, you can choose if you want to bring another Sharingan Kunai, or maybe you've decided, okay, I'd rather just get rid of their whole team because they're like double jutsuing me or something, and you can pull like Fear by Genjutsu instead. So this being permanent is also helpful because you can just use it anytime you really need it. If you just want to close out a game and you just want to pull a jutsu to your hand, or maybe they killed something on a previous chain and now you have enough in your discard to use this again. There's just a lot of options, and it is very versatile, but not versatile enough that I want to run more than one. It is more of a win more card than a, pull yourself out of a rut and stay consistent card. But I do think it's still very useful at 1. On to turn 3, I won 3 Symbol of the Proud Clan. This is the mission that has been referenced in multiple Leaf Police Force Uchiha already. It's a turn 3 mission with 1 hand cost, and it's a fire mission. It is permanent, and its effect is all your in-play ninjas with Uchiha in their name get +1/+1. Very helpful, with Fugaku being the buff. A +3 total to the front-end combat is very powerful. And the +1 for the support on a deck that doesn't have very much support is always going to be welcome. Additionally, ninja cards with Uchiha in their names in your hand gets -1 entrance cost. So that's very strong too. You can play your Sasukes and Fugakus on turn 3, just solidifying more that you're going to be able to hopefully win, with a 5-pronged seal on turn 3, or just start kunaiing everything you can on an earlier turn. So just very powerful, and being on the field and allowing you to turn off their search, turn off their draw, turn off their put in play is one of the main benefits. So I do run 3 because you want to see it probably every single game. I don't run any really search for it. There are multiple ways you can search for this, but I don't think those are exceedingly necessary. The deck isn't built around this specifically. It's just kind of a nice buff for the Uchiha and for Sasuke. and the Uchiha are a nice buff against kind of cheese strategies. So I do want to see it, but it's not really worth searching. So you can kind of take that as you will. I wouldn't fault anybody for adding more search for it, but I just personally don't. I run 1, the Warhawk. It is a turn 3, 1-hand cost fire mission, and its effect is your opponent wins 2 battle rewards. In that case, draw 4 cards. I believe 4 cards is one of the most you can draw out of any draw mission outside of like weird, highly niche scenarios. And winning 2 battle rewards is not the biggest deal. Kind of like in Yu-Gi-Oh, you can still win the game with 1 life point. You can still win the game if your opponent has 9 battle rewards. You don't lose any potential from 1 through 9 battle rewards. So if drawing 4 cards can help you win the game, there's pretty much no cost you can't pay to get that. So this is one of the best draw missions in the entire game. It does feel really bad at 3, and I do only run 1 because I didn't really have the space to run a second one. But personally, I don't think I would want to run 3, and who's got the money to do that anyway? Lastly, I run 1 Shadow of the Leaf. Last turn 3 mission with 1-hand cost fire mission. It is a counter mission, and a target is 1 mission. Negate and discard the target. In that case, if you control Sasuke Uchiha with an entrance cost of 4 or more, injure up to 2 of your opponent's ninjas. This is mostly just to disrupt your opponent's mission game. If there's a mission you know they're relying on, or something that might just bring them back into the game, or just something that is going to be really annoying for you, you can just remove that and kind of just get rid of it without much cost. This is pretty much the counter mission you want to run if you run any Sasuke at turn 4 or more, on the very, very off chance that you can get the second effect and injure 2 ninjas. I don't think I've ever actually used that part of the effect. It's kind of in an awkward state because the Sasuke has to be turn 4, but the mission is turn 3, so you're going to be on your turn 4 or at the earliest, and your opponent is probably going to be at turn 3 or 4. So it's just weird. You can have a turn 4 Sasuke on the field with your turn marker being 3, but it's just not going to come up very often. You're really only going to get it like post turn 6 or something, but the game is probably over at that point anyway, and you want to remove a mission earlier than that. But just on the off chance, there's no downside to it. There isn't a better mission removal that has like a better effect that you can take advantage of than the Sasuke one. So it's fine. In a pinch, you can use this on your opponent's turn to remove like a comp strengths or dehydration or something. But typically this is just going to disrupt normal missions. On to the reinforcement deck. I run 3 Danzo. It is a turn 4, 1-hand cost fire reinforcement. He has 2 mental power, and his effect is you must sacrifice 1 Sharingan Eye ninja to put him into play. Sacrifice is a mechanic where you can remove 1 ninja from the game entirely, and that is the cost to pay to put this into play from the reinforcement. So any Sharingan Eye ninja is good. It can even be the turn 0 Sasuke, as long as the entrance cost is met, because you can't cheese entrance costs for reinforcements. But its main effect is when this ninja is put in play, place X growth coins on this ninja, where X equals the sacrificed ninja's entrance cost, and this ninja gets the sacrificed ninja's characteristics. So this is mostly good for removing a problem ninja. Like if Sasuke has a poison counter on him and he can no longer battle, if he's injured and there's no way to heal him and you don't think you can do inherit off of him, sacrificing him to put Danzo into play and to give Danzo 4 growth coins is pretty much the way to go. I don't think anybody ever says that Danzo is like the key card in their deck. It doesn't really do anything outside of being a beat stick and kind of thinning your, hurt cards or something to allow you to put in play something else of the same name that's useful. But it does what it does really well. There are situations where, such as with the Kakashi childhood, you can remove him from the game and get name Kakashi. So you could use Kakashi Jutsus. That doesn't really come into play here, but in any other scenarios in a fire deck, that is extremely... There's a lot of potential in that. It has been errataed, but for most purposes, the errata isn't going to matter. It does state now gets the Sacrifice Ninja's printed characteristics. The characteristics of squads and platoons they have like a hidden characteristic to have each of the names that they are, even though they didn't write them in the characteristics because they figured they're already in the name. We're not going to waste space writing that they have the names they have. So he can't, sacrifice Sasuke and get Sasuke's name because he only gets the printed characteristics. And even if he sacrifices a squad that has the characteristics technically of each name, he doesn't get those names. But he does get, like I said, the characteristic for Kakashi's name Kakashi because that is a written characteristic. But yeah, he's just mostly there as glue to kind of get you out of a weird hole. For turn 5, I do run one proxy, unfortunately, because I do not own this card and I do need to use it. One Naruto and Sasuke Uchiha. So this is why I run the turn 0 Narutos besides the draw power. It's a turn 5, 0 hand cost, lightning and water reinforcement squad. And its effect is when this ninja is put in play, name a jutsu card. Valid. Jutsu cards with the selected name can be used by this ninja without paying its costs once per turn. So this is kind of just another get out of jail free card. If your Sasuke is otherwise incapacitated and you can use a Naruto on the field to get this out, you can kind of pseudo establish Sasuke's effect with the Sharingan Kunai. You can just call Sharingan Kunai to be free, and it's essentially the same system. Maybe you're running out of cards to mill in your own deck or something. Or maybe you just need the better stats. 7-3, 8-0 when injured is pretty good. And characteristics-wise, or combat attribute-wise, it does have oil and Genjutsu. So it does get the bonus effect from Fear by Genjutsu. Has Sharingan Eye. It does count as an Uchiha for Teyaki's draw. So yeah, just another kind of get out of jail free card, reinforcement. Next, I run one Hidan Curse Mode. Turn 6, one hand cost, fire and lightning reinforcement. So it can use the Naruto for a hand cost if you really need it to. It's pretty much the only way that can be used as a hand cost. It requires you to sacrifice Hidan, but the Hidan that we run is the one where if he's removed from the game, from the field, he does go to your discard pile. So putting this into play puts that Hidan in your discard. If this is removed from play, you can put the Hidan back into play from the discard and do it all over again. I would run 3, but I only own 1, and I really don't like using proxies when my deck is, fully created. Its effect is this ninja cannot be removed from play due to damage, and that is valid. And another valid effect is when this ninja receives any damage, both players win 1 battle reward. So just like Hanzo, this is another Gagaga Cowboy, I think, effect where if you have Hanzo on the field, you can bring out Curse Mode, and then with the 2 of them, win 2 battle rewards. If you were at 8 already, you just straight up win the game. There's pretty much nothing they can do about that. It has an effect where you can pay 2 colorless chakra to give 1 damage to itself to sort of self-activate this battle reward effect. And because it can't be removed from play by damage, it would still get injured, but it would never actually kill itself from that effect. So as long as you are up in battle rewards, once this comes onto the field, your opponent probably only has 2 or 3 turns to actually kill this thing. Also beneficial because since your Sasuke or whoever inherits his effect won't be using chakra, you will have chakra to spare for this effect, hopefully. And because your Sasuke or whoever is going to be milling into the discard, your Hanzo will also have cards to remove from the field or from the discard from the game to get more battle rewards, so there kind of isn't very much overlap. And it's just a solid way to just close out the game that is kind of dragging. And very lastly, I run 1 Sasuke and Kakashi. Turn 5, 0 hand cost, fire and lightning squad. It has Sharingan Eye, has name Uchiha, and does have Kakashi's name. 3 mental power, which is pretty good. And its effect is valid. When this ninja is put in play, distribute 3 -1/-1 coins on up to 3 target ninjas. And valid, your opponent's ninjas with -1/-1 coins on them cannot be the users of jutsu cards. The -1 coins are pretty negligible. Obviously, that can be beneficial cumulatively as a net. If they have -1 and your Fugaku is giving +2 and your symbol of the Proud Clan is giving +1, you can have a deficit of 4 on your opponent's side, which is almost an entire ninja worth of deficit. But the main benefit is that you can distribute the coins onto any target that you want to essentially make them unable to use jutsus. So if they have a Naruto on the field, put a coin on this, no more Rasengans for him. Same with like 4th Hokage, KNS. You could do all 3 of those, and now there are pretty much no targets that can use Rasengan. You can also just put this on like a whole team if they have one beat stick team that you know is going to block, prevent them from using jutsus. Now they're probably still going to block just for their numbers, and Sasuke can come in. This Sasuke can come in and use Sharingan Kunai if you have the chakra to just kill the entire team. So this is just a late game closer, kind of shuts down any final potential your opponent has to kind of disrupt your tactics. I would run 3 of these, but again, I only own 1, and for good reason. This card's really expensive at this point. I'm very glad I bought it for like $20 like a decade ago. But yeah, this is just a very good way to round out the game. And I also think it's neat that it is the same exact art. So if they're going to like squad together, it's like he didn't even leave. That's pretty cool. So that is the deck. I have run this deck in a tournament setting with some minor modifications. It did pretty well. I kind of got screwed on my luck of the draw. I just kind of wasn't drawing my Sasukes, and if I did draw my Sasukes, I wasn't drawing Sharingan Kunai. But I have since modified it because I was also running a Five-Pronged Seal kind of focused version because I didn't remember the errata had happened. But I think this version is much more consistent. I've added in pieces that allow it to function in more situations. I've taken out the kind of niche filters that I had on there, and I've added in more draw power to just kind of keep it on the board. So if you like this deck, give it a thumbs up, give it a subscribe. I try to post a new deck every 2 weeks, alternating between meta and casual decks. The casual decks are usually more cheese, and this one was more of a meta deck. This is just a kind of popular strategy, one of the more interesting combos off of just 2 cards. So yeah, let me know down in the comments below if you have any requests. I know I've gotten requests for sort of meta deck, meta sort of like behind the scenes deck videos kind of. People want to know like what my philosophies are for deck building. Like I've said, I run like 11 turn zeros specifically. So I want to know about that, how you build a deck. And I've thought about doing like a intro to the game specifically because I do like to do these longer videos to kind of give everyone all of the information I have rather than just being a profile. Here are the cards, good luck. So yeah, comment down below if you have any requests. Next week, I'll be debuting a variation on Shimon Says, if any of you remember what that was, or Saint Simon, or Simon Says, whatever you might have called it back in the day. I don't want to give too many spoilers, but it is a total revamped version that I'm actually pretty proud of. So I will see you again in a couple weeks for that. Bye!